Hello, good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Freedom Friday, the February edition, the Black History edition. Notice I didn't say Black History Month because I believe that we celebrate, me personally, I celebrate Black history all year long. So, welcome. This is Freedom Friday. I had to be careful because I almost said welcome to 21 Days of Skilling You Softly. I've been doing this series, so I had to get my mind back to Freedom Friday. So listen, I want to welcome you to this particular Freedom Friday special edition as I talk about Black history in America from the perspective of from Sarita's pen. And pretty much that's my perspective. Sarita pen is my signature that you should probably be accustomed to by now. And it's also the name of my business, which I just used the acronym FSP Enterprises. But nevertheless, I want to welcome you guys to this edition of Freedom Friday. There's a lot of information that I want to share with you. And but let me just start off saying this. If you join me in January, because if you guys know, I took a little sabbatical in October of last year. I had to regroup and I had to really pray about some things that I wanted, some things that I was being led, some changes to be made. But I wanted to really let you know. Last month, I kind of explained my theme for this year for Freedom Friday is conversation with candor. In other words, conversation with frankness. And what this is, I address how soft skills, methods, and practices are the solution to the problems and challenges in four particular spheres of social influence. And there's actually seven, and I'll put this back up here, this slide, so you can see this. I base this on this reclaiming the seven mountains of culture or culture mountains, which is actually in 1975, Bill Bright. He's the founder of Campus Crusaders, and Lorene Cumming, she is the founder of the Youth Mission, Youth with a Mission, and they developed this God-given strategy of changing the world. So basically says this is how we're going to bring godly change to the nation by reaching into these different seven spheres of social influence. So they are art and entertainment, they are business, education, family, government, media, and religion. So the ones that I, choose to focus on as far as the four of the seven is business, faith, with business and religion, family, and education. So basically those, and I guess you can say in a sense, like I said before, media. So those are the four that I focus on, and I'll be, these are the mountains that I choose to reclaim for the kingdom. So, just want to give you a little feedback, give you a little information of how the Freedom Fridays will be flowing this year. And also, too, this year, I'll be having special guests. This is a special edition I wanted to do for Black History. But I'll have special guests I'm actually going to have every month. And you'll learn who the guests are. Maybe the day when, you never know who's going to be on here. I'm lining up some great people and to share with you as well. Okay, so let's talk about some interesting facts when we're talking about Black history. Now, some of you may know this, may not have known this, but actually Black history was 1926. Carter G. Woodson launched like a week-long celebration of Black history in the United States. And then in 1976, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month. So Black History Month is also celebrated just not only in the United States, but they also celebrate it in Ireland, the Netherlands, and United Kingdom as well. So, this is a big deal, especially now that many of us have, and I'll just say for years, and I'm going to kind of, let me put this up here. I'm going to kind of, give you my perspective of, what's going on in America, which there's a lot going on in America as far as, I think the pandemic really was the catalyst for that. All of this really started with all these, deaths of our African American men and women. This has been going on for years. This just really just came to the forefront. So, and I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there now. Whether you're looking at this now or you may come back and look at this later. Okay. I have an audience. I have people of all races, nationalities. I'm streaming this live on YouTube as well that here, and I want to just put this out here. Some of the things I'm going to share from my perspective, just because I'm pro-Black does not mean I'm anti-white. Okay. These are some things that I'm going to share a video with you that's really going to hit home. It should, if it doesn't, it should. That really should hit home. But, my ancestors, some of you guys know, I have older parents. Okay. And I'm gonna make sure I put, guys, if you want to leave comments, you can put comments on here. I'm streaming live from Facebook as well, so you can still put your comments on here and I'll see them. But I grew up with older parents, and I used to be kind of a little embarrassed about that. But I am so grateful now because both of them, I miss them dearly. Both of them are no longer with me. If my mom and dad would have been living, they would have been 95 and 96, right? So I'm 51, I'll be 52 in May. So they were a part of the silent generation. We talk about generations. My sisters and brothers, most of my sisters and brothers are old enough to be my parents. So I'm part of their baby boomers, and I'm part of Gen X generation. And then after the Generation X is millennials, of course, and Gen Z is the generation after that. And there's actually another generation after them called the Alpha generation, which we haven't heard much about them yet. But my parents explained to me, and my grandmother was born in 1892. Now, she wasn't born into slavery. I don't really think her parents were, but her grandmother and her grandfather were slaves. So it was such a joy at nighttime. We call her Big Mama. Everybody got a Big Mama. That I actually used to share a room with her, and some of the stories she would tell me growing up, and I would listen to my parents, and I find out, about my ancestors. And I even had a cousin here in Memphis. He actually did, this was before Ancestry became popular, which I actually did that as well. He did an Ancestry research and find out a lot about my dad's side of the family, which they were, that's another story within itself, Murphys. And they were from a plantation in Arkansas, Murphy Plantation. And actually his grandmother and his grandfather, I think his grandmother was actually the plantation owner's daughter. So she was, and then I don't know much about her husband, but anyway, I see the picture, both of them, to be honest, both of them look European. But, he went back and found all this information. And then I would hear my mother talking about in the 50s and 60s and how they came up, and Jim Crow and segregation, and the things they had to do. And um, even my sisters, my older sisters and brothers, grew up in the age where you had the white sign only, the black sign, and they would tell me stories and I would listen. And when my sister next to me, when she came up, that's when segregation was ending. So she ended up being bused to what was that time. Bolivar Central High School was a predominantly white school. So they started busing them to Bolivar Central High School. So I've had a lot of history and the stories they used to tell me, and also too, how it used to be and their values. My parents were different. They were like they were old enough to be my grandparents. So for some of you, especially if you're a millennial or Gen Z, like my daughter, my mom was old enough to be her great grandmother. And she learned a lot from her, even where you're talking related to health and education, because my father had a sixth grade education and my mom had a eighth grade education, but they were very intelligent. My father had his own business. He worked in the maintenance at Western Mental Health in Bolivar, Tennessee. And my mama was an excellent bookkeeper. If she'd have been, gone to college, she would have been a great accountant. So they were very smart, worked hard. They taught me values to work. They taught me, I was not born at that time when it was, segregated. I came along when everything was, I didn't know anything about that. And I guess I was probably the only child, because I used to hear my brothers telling stories about, some of the families in Whiteville. But my dad was the kind, he was a hardworking man. He was a fair man, but he didn't take no mess. So you can probably say, the little town that I grew up in and some of the areas that, he was very active and like, okay, I'm not taking no crap from nobody. That's just how he was, period. So, growing up with parents like that, I treasured that. And, late about 5 years ago, I ran my ancestry DNA, and it was interesting to see, where I came from. Now, according to my mom, my grandfather, my great grandfather, which he, I didn't know either one of I didn't know my grandfather, neither one of those, because they passed away before I was born. But her grandfather, she states was Native American, basically. But it's funny, when I did the DNA, the ancestry, it didn't come up. But I later learned from someone else who definitely had Native American blood, that for some reason the Native Americans don't really release their DNA information, I guess, So, knowing who you are, knowing where you come from is very important. I truly learned who I was as far as when I went to University in Memphis, because when I went, it was Memphis State University then. And that was in the late 80s. That was the first time that I actually experienced racism. I had never experienced racism before. So it was a little hurtful, but I learned to what to and to not, what, put it like this, during that period of time when I was going to school, that's when the Rodney King situation happened. And, I won't say the rebirth of the Black Panther, but it was a movement was going on in our college in the time when I was in school, especially on the campus of University of Memphis. It was like, we're fed up with this, and we were kind of Gen X was a little radical generation. We were, and we still kind of are in a sense. But that's when I really understood. And then when I went to, I took this class. If anybody went to University of Memphis back then, and I think he's taught it still for a while after that, I went to African American Rhetoric with Dr. AC. I learned so much, it blew my mind about where I came from. And then I recall as a child, go back when I was 7 years old, I remember when Roots came out. I was 7 years old, and my parents wanted me to watch it. And I was just like, wow, so I learned a lot. But the thing is, they taught me, which is going to really lead me to my next point here, as this wonderful topic of critical race theory is, pops up. They wanted me to know. I was taught in high school, I was taught about Black history, and in a sense, that the government books didn't never really say a lot about. They just said, slavery, and you know, uh, if I didn't know what I know as a child, I would have never known that my ancestors came from Africa, because they don't really talk a lot. They talk a lot more about the civil rights movement. They talk a lot about the Dr. King, Malcolm X, but I didn't really learn a lot until after I came back, after I took that class, and I learned a lot about my ancestors and who we are as a people. And uh, we were the first civilization, and how rich the country of Africa, the continent Africa was. And as I always said continent, because people say, where you there from Africa? And I'm like, okay, Africa is a continent. What country is Africa are you from? But anyway, I digress. So, really learning those things. And, I actually learned a lot about the different countries in Africa and the culture and where I came from, and all those things. And when I had a child, and this is where I really want to get to, my daughter is 20, she'll be 22 this year. I remember when she was 8, maybe 9 years old, and I think a new edition of Roots or something came out. I wanted her to see, and I'm going to show you. I actually bought the whole DVD. It's 4 discs. I bought this. Let me go full screen here. I bought this whole collection of Roots. She was only 8 years old, maybe 9. And I set her down. We watched Roots together. I explained to her where we came from. This is what slavery was. But I also taught her too, this is not, this is more of education for you. This is not for you to hate European and white people. I just want to know, give you your history, where you came from. So I will always buy her books. I will always show her movies. And I'm going somewhere with this. Just hang with me. And I would educate her, because true enough, as soon as she got to school, she went to high school, she took government classes, and I'm not going to call this instructor's name, was a white male. And the lies and how he would make it seem like, it was just ridiculous. But see, I taught my child, we talk about next generation here. I taught her how to think for herself. She knew the truth. So she would question him, and she was like, no, that's not true. This is the truth, blah, And, I'm like, he knew he was wrong. But she was always known as, what was they used to call her? Sister. I used to call her Sister Soldier. If you don't know who that is, she was kind of a radical rapper. So you need to look that up. But they used to call her Sister Soldier. Some of her other African American teachers, because she knew where she came from. She knew her history. She knew the truth. So I'm saying all this to say, with all this going on with these governors, these different states and this government passing, trying to pass all these voter, trying to get rid of passing these, I call them Jim Crow 2 laws for this voting. And then we trying to, some of the states, Tennessee is one of them, have actually taken out in the history books the anti-critical race theory. It's as they say, it's promoting hate. It's promoting racism. In other words, what they're trying to do is exactly what this picture is showing. This is an artist, I think his name is Jonathan Harris, and his painting is entitled Critical Race Theory. I got this off one of my sorors, had this on her. And basically, that's why I say this picture is worth 1,000 words. This is exactly what's going on. You trying to, sometimes I wonder, since like I said, this is with candor, I'm wondering, is this a retaliation from the last couple of years where we've had these Confederate statues have been removed and they're having a fit? So this is, I'm like, is this payback? So you're trying to erase our history. And I'm not talking about, like I said, I'm not talking about the whole white race, okay? Because some of them can't stand, some of they, this just is really ignorance. So is this payback for trying to, you trying to erase our history? So I'm saying this to say this. If you guys, and I hate to say it, it may get worse before it gets better. I'm talking to my millennial and I'm talking to my Gen Z parents and a few of us Gen Xers who still, you may have younger children, okay? If you don't find a way to teach your children about their ancestors, where they came from, first of all, they're going to start we already going through identity crisis as it is, because some of us as Black American, we don't even know who the heck we are. And I'm trying to be nice and not to cuss, but I love Jesus, but I cuss a little bit, okay? We don't even know who the heck we are. So if you don't explain this to your children, we're going to have a loss. Our generation is really going to be lost. They're not going to know where they come from. They're not going to know. So yeah, we used to look at Eyes on the Prize. I don't even think we used to actually have that in class to look at those films. They're taking it all out. Even the teachers, I just heard a live yesterday, even the African-American teachers were trying to do it, but they got a hotline, y'all, a hotline. If you think your children are being taught something concerning critical race theory, they can call and complain. So it's just like these teachers are afraid to say anything because they actually could lose their freaking jobs. This is pathetic. So, this is not new. Seriously, it's just another way to keep our my African American sisters and brothers, down. But we're gonna have to learn how to educate our own children. You're gonna have to get that at home. Just like I didn't, at that time they had history in school. Black history was in school. But I still took it upon myself to educate my child with the truth. And when I have grandchildren, guess what? I'm going to be educating them with the truth. Because I love history anyway. You need to know who you are. Because I did have parents that did do, some parents probably didn't want their children looking at their roots when it first came out because it was such a shocker. That was the first one of the first Black major movies for TV movies came out in the 70s. It was like, it caused a big uproar. It was an uproar when this came out. But we started to see who we are and where we came from. We were kings and queens in Africa. We were wealthy. We were a proud people. We still are a proud people. We just have gotten, what do they say? When the coffee, the more you put a creamer in the coffee, when it's strong and it's black, it becomes weaker. We have become a little weaker, but educating yourself and your children. No, I did not go to a HBCU, but my child went to one. She didn't want to go to a PWI. So, I hope the enrollment skyrocket at our HBCUs just for this, because if you're not going to learn it in high school, you got to learn it from somewhere. If your parents, and I'm saying this especially to my young parents, listen, take time and educate. And if you don't know your history, you need to read and find out, because it is becoming an issue. It's not going to. We need to wake up and pay attention to what's going on around us. And because this is going to hurt our future generations. Right now, that is my concern. Everything that I do, my coaching, my consulting, whatever, I am always targeting the future generation, because I want them to understand who they are and where they come from, the history. Because if you don't know your history and your past, you are deemed to repeat it. I read, I think it was in Pew's, it's research center, that was talking about the generation, and they was talking about Gen Z is probably going to be the most educated generation that there is, because most of the Generation Z parents, like me, I'm a millennial. I'm a Gen Xer. All of us, majority of them have college degrees. So they're very educated. They are the ones who are out there protesting on the front line, and they don't back down from nothing. And I absolutely freaking love it. I'm loving this. They're not going to back down on this. I will just say this, though: protests in peace and not in violence, because violence is only going to bring violence. I just say that as well. So, we're going to have to educate our own children at home, especially when they're little. I think, from my understanding, I'm actually trying to get a copy of something to see this history book, the redacted history book that's all this is taken out of. I actually trying to, if somebody from Shelby County Schools, I would love to, anybody teach government, I would love to see what they have in there. I'm just really curious. So hit me up, send me, DM me. If you go back and read this, look at this replay, I'm just curious to see what's in this. Okay. All right. That is my 2 cents on that. But like I said, what is the solution? So let me go back. I'm going to play this short video for you. This is going to be one of the things that's going to happen. And I actually got this off TikTok. But I'm going to play it for you, and I'm just going to let you marinate on this. Here it goes.
If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
That's going to have to be the solution. My white sisters and brothers, y'all going to have to step up. You see this. That video was so powerful. You're sitting back, you're not saying anything. A few are speaking up, but you guys are going to have to speak up, because according to the census, which they said is jacked up and skewed from 2020, we make up less than 12% of the population. But yet our spending power, I don't know how many trillions of dollars the black, we as a people spend in this country. So yeah, you're going to have to step up. But that's that on that. And but I'm just like, guys, we're going to have to educate our own children. We really are. I want you to be aware. And as far as this war that's going on now, don't think Black people this don't affect you, because it does. It really does affect you. Don't sit back. This is not my war. Yes, it is. Because when a war happens, prices goes up. We've never been in a world war. We've had Iraq and we've had Desert Storm, but this is huge. So it is going to affect you. Pay attention. One of the networks I really start looking at now is the BIN, and also the Black Star Network, which Roland Martin has started his own because he got tired of the politics and the crap. So he started his own, and it is called the Black Star Network. That's the app. He has a live. He goes live every day, and I watch it almost every day. So pay attention to it. Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to do is talk about is, so I am so proud. Let me grab this book here of my besties, my friend Celeste, and 4 other women. They have actually published this book called The Ashes Have Voices. They had their first book signing a couple of weeks ago at the Novel Bookstore here in Memphis, and they actually have another book signing in Louisiana, actually tomorrow at Barnes and Noble. So they're traveling. But this book, guys, you need to, especially Black women. So I have it here. It's 5 Black women who initially came together to share life's lessons of their personal experiences with younger women. It quickly shifted to sharing transparent stories of the bumpy roads of their past journeys. I actually was honored, and they asked me to write. I read the book, and they asked me to write the foreword. Women, especially Black women, you need to get this book. This is the order to order the book. It is just theseasheshavevoices.com. They have a website. It has everything on there. Please order this book, because you're going to find yourself. I found myself in 2 or 3 of these women. It's raw. It's transparent. They talk about everything growing up as a Black woman, dealing with hurt, sexual abuse. They talk about the church girl, the good church. I mean, it is. I'm just going to say, you need to get this book. Okay. I have it here, but also too, I'll have it on my pages. But definitely get this book. Support them. I'm telling you, my life is never the same after reading this and writing the foreword. So that's why I was honored to write the foreword for them. Okay. All right. What else do we have here? I think that is it. I want to thank you guys for sharing with me tonight on this special edition of Freedom Friday, Black History. And, I would just say this: know who you are, embrace who you are, especially our Black men and our Black women. I love my sisters and brothers. I embrace you, because we have some difficult, in the words of Dr. King, we've come a long ways. We've had our first Black president. We have our first female Black president, vice president, and we've strived, but we can't go back. And the way that we got to do this, y'all got to go out and vote, especially my younger generation. Your vote, you don't think your vote count? Oh, yes, it does. How in the hell do you think they are changing all these laws? They smart. They know what to do. They go to school. They become lawyers. They get hired, get lawyers and attorneys. Then they run for these offices. They get their folks in these offices so they can pass these bills. Young Black people, y'all gonna have to start running for some offices. Politics just ain't my thing. That's just me personally, but I'm fighting, I'm supporting, I'm putting the word out. God is giving me some things, but you guys are gonna have to vote and exercise your right. Why would you not vote when your ancestors died so you can have the right to vote. That's the most stupidest thing I ever seen in my life, heard of in my life. I wish my child would tell me she can go vote. She know, don't even say nothing to me about not going vote. She knows to go vote when she turn 18. Yes, because your her, even her grandparents, my mom and dad, protests, they fight for the right to vote. So that's how things get changed. How you think they crept in here and did I didn't mean to say all this, but how do you think they got all these laws passed? These Jim Crow 2 laws I call, and then each state, their state legislator. I looked at the state of Tennessee, and I was like, good Lord, no wonder they got that bill passed to take all this, the Black history out of the schools. Y'all sitting back and y'all, oh, they gonna do what they want. Yeah, you know what? They are doing what they want because you won't take your black butt out and vote. Yes, I said it. But anyway, let me get off this. Have a good evening. And yeah, this is the new Sarita, the Freedom Friday with candor, because I'm gonna say what I feel and feel what if you feel what I say, good. If not, oh well. But I am striving to make a difference and be my ancestors' dream. And I'm instilling that in my children and every young person that I can come into contact with. Because frankly, I'm tired of seeing this, of every day turning on the news and I'm seeing my people and, everything that's going on. But only way we're going to change this is you go out and vote, get the right people in office to cancel these ridiculous laws that they're putting in place, period. So have a good weekend. Have a wonderful remainder of this evening. And let me just say this. Let me pop this up here. I don't know if it may be on my other one. I am wrapping up 21 business days of Skilling You Softly, where I've actually been talking about a soft skill every day, ever since February 1. And it's 28 business days. So it's I have 2 more days, Monday and Tuesday. And go back and look at some of the replays because as you guys know, I love soft skills. I'm a soft skills expert. This will help you, especially the one today. I talked about stress management. So go back and look at the replays on those. And I know if it doesn't help you, forward to somebody if they need the help. Okay. All right, guys. See you later. Have a great weekend. Peace out. Bye.